So I'm going to be showing you how to make the clip you just saw, so let's not waste any time. So we got the empty blender scene. First I'm going to delete everything, and then we're going to add in a camera to start things off. There's our camera. It's at 0, 0, 0. I'm just going to bring it up on the z-axis. So just G, Z, maybe up 10 units. Now it's up here. And then I'm going to make it orthographic view. For the scale, I'm specifically going to make the scale 2. And you'll see why in a second. And then in the render tab, I'm going to make the X and Y resolution here something square. Say 500 by 500. So now you'll see in this top view, we perfectly are fitting 2 by 2 blender units inside of this camera space. So if you look in the bottom, we are at keyframe 1 down here. So I'm going to hit I to insert a keyframe and then location. So now the camera is locked to that position on frame 1. And then I'm going to go up to frame 11. So the camera takes up a 2 by 2 space. So I'm going to move the camera 10 frames up, which means that I need to move it 2 by 2 frames times 10 to the right. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, all the way up to 20. So I'm just going to type on the x-axis, move up 20. So now on frame 11, I'm here at 20. I need to insert another keyframe. So now our camera is animated to move back and forth between frame 1 and frame 11. Next, I'm going to open up the graph editor. So in the graph editor, you'll see x-axis curve here. That's in red. It's curving like that. So that means on frame 10, for example, our camera is not perfectly focused on a 2 by 2 area on the grid up here. So to fix that, we need to make this line perfectly straight. So I can just select that line there, press N to open up this menu. See where it says interpolation? We want to change it from Bezier to linear. Now if we look at frame 10, or any frame, we'll see that the camera perfectly matches to a 2 by 2 area. And if you want to have more space than just 10 frames, something that I did for the actual animation that we're showing is I actually started going down the rows as well. So this location is already keyed. We already have a location keyed at frame 11. So then I'm going to move the camera back to its original spot, but a space down from this one. So it was originally here. I'm going to move it a space down to here, but of course I have to be on frame 12. So I'm going to move it there on frame 12, and then I'm going to hit I and insert keyframe for the location again. So you'll see the X coordinate just went back, but we want to look at the Y-axis now. So we'll see the Y-axis is mostly straight, and then at the very end it comes down by 1 step. And now we can sort of cycle these two graphs. So let's look at the X one first. So we'll go to modifiers, add modifier, cycles. So that is repeating on the x-axis forever now. And of course we only have it going down by 1 row there, but we want the row to be shifting constantly. So we can also add the same modifier to the y coordinate. So cycles, and you'll see the problem here is that it'll go down to the next row and then it'll come back up. So we don't want that. We are going to repeat with offset. So now you see that it constantly steps down like that. So if we play the animation, we can go back to timeline and hit play, and now you'll see the camera will forever just go down, scanning whatever we draw. And that's how I set up the animation. So that's the camera. So I'm gonna have to start putting in the animation. Okay, so we're on frame 1 here. I'm going to move this back down, and let's add a circle, mesh circle, and I'm gonna scale it down. Let's do a bouncing ball. I'm gonna move it down. I'm gonna assume that the floor is this line right here. So I'm gonna move it down to that line right there. I'm gonna fill it, and maybe we'll add a material. So for the material with these renders, I like to use the background node, because then it just gives me a flat color. And I can pick whatever color I want, obviously, so we can pick something like maybe like reddish. And then we want the color to be accurate to what we picked. So we'll go to the render tab, and under color management, view transform standard. So now if I go to the rendered view, we can see it's accurate. If I go back to filmic, we can see the color becomes a little bit more washed out. But if I go to standard, it shows us the color that we actually picked. So that's our first frame. Now we can move shift over to frame 2 down here in the timeline, and then now we see the camera moved over here. So then I want to obviously move our object the exact amount of space that the camera shifted, which we decided in the beginning was 2 units. So I can hit shift D, X, and then 2. And so what I like to do if I want to see my previous frame on top of my current frame is, so I copied this over, and now I can enter edit mode and delete only faces. Now I'll get this outline, and I'll copy it again, shift D, X, 2, and now when I'm editing this, I'm going to edit in wireframe mode. You can see that the line of the other circle is still there. So if I start shaping this now, so we can go back to rendered view, we can see that our new frame looks like this, and if we delete the original outline that we had, we can see it nice and clean. If we go into the camera's view, the camera sees this on frame 2 and this on frame 1, so we can actually already see a little bit of animation happening. And I know you can see that the other frame on the outside of the camera's view, but of course in the render that's not going to be visible. So we can keep going like this. Maybe we can define an important keyframe, like say maximum squish level. Maybe I'll go to frame 5, we'll exit camera view, and we'll copy over the first frame again, and I'll just hold control so that it moves by set increments, and I know where to place it exactly, so I'll place it there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to delete only faces so that I have an outline, and then I'm actually just going to add a new mesh, just add a blank plane, move it over to here, and just delete all but one vertex, and then just start drawing from scratch with this vertex. And then of course we'd want to set the material to be the same one we've been using before. We can delete our outline. Now we have a nice key, and then we could start animating in between these. So what I would do to animate in between is I would look at, say, frame 3, and I would duplicate 2 of the surrounding frames. So I would duplicate this one from before, shift D, X, 2, and then delete this one from after, shift D, X, negative 4. Now we have these 2 over here, and then I could select them both, tab to go into edit mode, select them fully, and then delete only faces. Now we have the outlines again. We'll add another plane, G, deselect one vertex to delete the rest of the vertices. So we want to be somewhere in between these 2 frames that I have outlined, and I want to be closer to this one since we're closer to the left. So we'll start maybe over here, and then just start drawing out our shape. Make sure we set our material. Then we can delete these outlines that we had. Great, now we just got to do one more. So now we have 5 frames. So let's look at how this looks right now. So we'll go to output properties and we'll set the end frame to 5. And for now we'll just set the frame rate to a custom of 8 FPS just so we can see things moving nice and slow. We can look in the camera view and just watch our little animation. Maybe zoom in to really see the effect. So we see our circle getting squished. And that's really how I did the entire animation. Okay, so the next thing I want to go over is that hand-drawn, every frame looks a little bit different sort of effect. So to start, first I'm going to shift all of these frames 5 frames to the left. So just G, X, and then that's 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we can look at our animation to make sure, so all of these are blank now. So in the output properties we'll change the end time to 10 because now we have 10 frames. So we'll just scroll through that real quick and we see we have everything encompassed now. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this starting ball and I'm just going to duplicate it, move it on the x-axis before any frames. And then I'm going to delete this one. I'm then going to duplicate this several times. So shift D, X2, shift D, X2, repeat that. And now I'm going to delete the original, so we have a bunch of identical circles, and this makes for a boring animation. Doesn't look hand-drawn, looks like we did it in Blender. So let's take a look at one of these. Go into edit mode, so we can hit F3 now, and we can search randomize, and then we'll see mesh transform randomize. This is what we want, so I'll press that, and we'll see our circle goes kind of crazy. But we get in the bottom left this little menu here, and we can change the amount of randomize that happens. So I can reduce that to around 0.02, let's say. I'd say that's still too much, maybe 0.01. That looks reasonable to me. And the random seed here is going to be important. So the random seed for this first one is 0. So we can tab out of this one, tab into the next one, and do the same exact thing. An easier way would also be to select 2 meshes at the same time, tab into both, F3, randomize, and you can do them all together like that as well. Now let's take a look at the animation. Go back to frame 1, look at our camera view, and you can see the circle has a nice, satisfying, hand-drawn looking wobble to it as it animates, which is exactly what we're looking for. We'll look at it in rendered view as well. Okay, so the last part is just rendering out our animation. So let's pick a background color. Let's make it something, maybe, I like this color actually already. Go to the output properties tab. The output folder here, it's marked as temporary right now. We want to change that to wherever we put our animation. Alright, just pick the folder here, hit accept wherever you want your output to go, and then down here in the file format right now it says PNG. We will change that to AVI JPEG. I'm going to bump the quality to 100% and just hit render up in the top left and render animation. And that should save out a file for you, and there it is. You can open that up and watch your animation. Okay, so now that we made that little animation, the rest of the video is going to be a time lapse of the Frostberry animation.
Technology year. Believe it or not, the technology revolution is happening now, and you're a part of it. The technology revolution is happening now, and you're a part of it. 1982 is Information Technology Year. Believe it or not, the technology revolution is happening now, and you're a part of it.